Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson at Infinity Whole Health, and I get questions. Boy, do I get questions. I don't like taking food away from people. I really don't. But often we have allergies or intolerances to food. And if you're wondering the difference, please catch our podcast on the difference between allergies and intolerances. And as we go down this pathway of how do I do a food that I react to, I get this frequently. In fact, one time I remember a client telling me, hey, I'm a diabetic and I'm doing all this stuff, but it seems like I have a problem with Splenda. And back when Splenda was big, and they asked me, how can I do this safely? I was like, who'd want to do Splenda safely? But I'm like, I have it. If you could go live on a tropical island and eat fresh foods and drink fresh spring water and catch your fish and cook it over an open fire every day and live in a grass hut that doesn't have chemicals and your food doesn't have chemicals and your water doesn't have chemicals, then you probably could do Splenda safely. And they said, Doc, if I did that, I probably wouldn't be diabetic and I'd be fine. I'm like, bingo, that's true. So for some of you out there that are like, I really just want to have an Oreo once in a while and not pay the price, or a milkshake or a donut or whatever it is that you want to do, and you have a bit of a food allergy or an intolerance. Well, first and foremost, you're going to find most significant food intolerances or allergies to them are going to be symptoms like diarrhea, nausea, gut pain, cramping. Sometimes you're going to know skin issues like rashes and things like that when they get a little bit worse. Could have vomiting if it's even worse than that. Could have eruptions on the skin if it was worse than that. And of course, the closing of the throat and, the sinuses stuff and maybe even just overall making you sick. Like, I feel like I have a cold. And we're going to explain a little bit those mechanisms here in just a moment. But those are common food allergies that we'll see signs and symptoms of. So let's say that you have some of that. Classic one for me, if I eat yogurt 2 days in a row, I can't hear out of this ear. Like, what's up with that? So I'm going to talk a little bit about milk in a moment, but this is the stuff that we see. If I just go ahead and start eating bread, I'm going to be so exhausted that I'm just going to take a nap pretty much every day between about 1:30 and 3:30. I'm going to want a 2-hour nap. And so that's another type of a food allergy when it just zaps your energy because your body's like, what are you doing to me? So I'm going to talk about the big 4 food allergies and the lesser 4 food allergies. These are the main ones that most people are going to have problems with. And if you're one of those people, you can shoot me a line or an email and we can chat about it. Or if you're looking to how to do it a little better, perhaps you'll notice some things here that will be helpful to you. So let's begin. First and foremost, one of the biggies is soy. There's like over 8,000 different soybeans, and it's one of the most genetically modified foods on the planet. And so you'll find it in everything. Food or salad dressings, in different oils. You'll find it in most of your baked goods. It's just everywhere. And soy is commonly causing skin issues, commonly causing nausea, gut pain, diarrhea. This is soy. Now, I have clients that I give soybean lecithin to. It's totally different. It does not come from the soybean. It's not soybean oil. It's soybean, the plant, from the leaves, lecithin. Lecithin is in every green thing out there, but it's really easy to get to in soy. And we use an organic soy, but still people are like kind of freaked out, like, is this going to have estrogen and other stuff in it? No, it's a better form of soy and it's not from the bean. Oh, okay. So most soy is genetically modified. It can grow really fast and it's got high oil content, but most of it's just really kind of complete garbage for us. And if you could find fresh soybean oil, it might actually be okay. But once they refine it, like anything they refine, it just becomes an irritant to the body and toxicity. So it may actually be some of the toxicity of the refining process and the chemicals they use in it than it is the soybean. So in all intents and purposes, you're going to have difficulty staying away from soybean oil just in and of itself. But do the best you can, go more natural, go more organic. And again, if you're looking to do some foods, like let's say like me, I have a dream. I told this to clients and probably mentioned in other podcasts. My dream is to have a donut that was made from wheat that was ground at the bakery. And they made the pastry right then and put it in fresh sesame seed oil that wasn't toasted. And they fried it up in sesame seed oil. And then they sprinkled organic cane sugar on it. And I get to eat that wonderful donut that actually would be pretty much good for you. But I digress. That's my dream. So until then, we've got a lot of issues. So let's go right into gluten. So we just covered soy. Now we're covering gluten, one of the big four. So gluten is kind of everywhere. And once they started modifying wheat, instead of growing it 9 feet tall and the wind would come and push all the wheat over and ruin crops, they started hybridizing wheat and genetically modifying it so it would grow shorter and shorter and shorter and not be so much affected by the wind. And so they would get a crop that actually wouldn't lay down and wouldn't rot the wheat on the vine, so to speak, or the grass. So now we have all this increase of gluten in the wheat because of that genetic modification. So now our guts are like, hey, I used to only have to handle tiny little bits of gluten. Now it's even changed molecularly. It's actually called gliadin. And there's massive quantities of it that I'm not used to and my gut's not prepared for. And it irritates our gut. So we're going to find gut cramping, nausea, diarrhea, all from gluten. But what's interesting is I love shaking people's hands. When I shake their hand, if it feels moist or damp on the palm, I'm pretty much going to guarantee you it's a wheat allergy or a gluten allergy, that their gut is unhappy. I'm also going to see, acne and other skin issues with wheat allergies. So if that's you, you can shake hands with all your friends and say, you have a gluten intolerance. You've eaten way too much gluten. It bothers my gut. Well, of course. So little tidbits for you. Next is, this is probably one of my favorites because I love corn, and corn is a big allergen. And corn is different than other foods in the fact of what it tends to do most. It tends to affect our brain. And if you have any kind of tic or brain slowness, sluggishness, even as much as a seizure or anything like that, you may have a corn allergy. If you have a dog who's having you think maybe seizures, I'm willing to bet that in their dog food, you may be finding some corn, and they may have a corn allergy. And so corn is really difficult because corn starch is everywhere. Corn oil is everywhere. High fructose corn syrup is everywhere. I mean, how do you get away from corn? I love corn chips as they are. And corn is yet again a grain for all those people out there that think, well, I ate lots of vegetables, I ate lots of corn. No, that's not a vegetable, it's a grain. And it can be really hard on the body. So those of, Aztec descent or Mexican descent, you may find that corn isn't a big deal for you. You may find that it is a big deal. And so what happens with these allergens, these food allergens that go into our gut, the fitting of the cells, between the cells, there's a gap junction. And when we have an allergen, it actually swells, and now we increase that gap junction. And so now we start giving bacteria, viruses, funguses, amoebas, protozoas, parasites, kind of better access through our gut into our blood. They want our blood. And so that's their goal, is to get to our blood. And we have all these mechanisms to try to keep them out. But when we continuously inflame our gut, we're now allowing infections constantly to run. So we'll find things like food allergies where they have skin eruptions and rashes. That's about what's happening, is it's getting through the gut, and now it's affecting the gut, but it's also getting in the blood and it's affecting the skin. Remember, the skin is basically it just continues on all the way down and out the other end. Pretty much similar tissue. So if you're seeing it on your skin, you're probably going to see it in the gut too. So if you have acne on your skin, guess what your gut has? Probably has some acne. It's probably inflamed, probably has infections, probably not good. So why wouldn't it be amazing then to know that Accutane, which is synthetic vitamin A and not actually good for your kidneys and the rest of your body, but that high vitamin A naturally and high vitamin C naturally actually affects and helps acne? Because vitamin A is an anti-infection vitamin. That's how it got its name. Anti-infection was the A for vitamin A. So we prefer that you don't do it in synthetic form and hurt your kidneys like Accutane, that you do it naturally in your foods and in your diet and try to clean up some of the allergies and intolerances that you may have. But again, I digress. So the last one of the big four, so we've got soy, gluten, corn, and finally milk. Now I leave this one last because milk is kind of a special animal. Milk, I find very few people cannot tolerate, very few people can not tolerate milk in its natural form, which means most people can tolerate milk in its natural form. And if you're like, I don't believe you. Well, I do have one caveat here, that it has to be natural. You cannot process milk and expect to do a body good. The natural form of milk, meaning straight from the cow, which people are like, oh, okay, so you have a cow that's diseased and there's lots of pus in the milk, and you heat the milk and you put it in a container and now you're okay drinking it? How is that any different? Okay, so it's heated and now all the pus has been heated. But an animal that's healthy and the milk comes out, it doesn't taste really any different than the pasteurized. People ask me all the time, what does it taste like? It tastes like milk. And so when you don't pasteurize milk, you now have good fats that are still intact. You have all the vitamin K, the vitamin D, the vitamin E. There is some vitamin A in there. You have all of the minerals, the calcium are now available to you. And you have kind of a health food. The proteins are there. All the bacteria that's in the milk is natural to the milk and actually protects the milk. If you don't believe me, then you can look up online experiments back in the 50s when they would take a cow's milk, pasteurize just that one cow's milk, give that pasteurized milk to her calf, and in 2 weeks that calf would die. And they did it many times. So if a calf, which the milk is designed for, and you pasteurize it, dies if they drink that pasteurized milk, what makes you think that you could drink that milk without harm? So shouldn't it be obvious that many people probably should be allergic to milk once it's pasteurized and homogenized and all the crap they do to it? The answer is yes. And so I would say maybe 1 out of 1,000, it's probably not even that many. If you drink raw milk, you're probably going to find that you're just fine with it. If I eat cheese that is from pasteurized milk, I will start getting stuffy in about 2 or 3 minutes. It's probably even faster than that. I can eat raw cheese all I want. I never get stuffy. I can drink raw milk. I don't get congested. I can eat ice cream that is pasteurized milk and I am congested. I will eat yogurt that is pasteurized milk and I will be congested. I'll have milk that's gone sour and it doesn't make me, if it's raw milk goes sour, I can drink it. It doesn't bother me. And so even in my own experimentation, I realize I expect you to experiment too. If you suspect an allergy, stop it for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Then bring it back into your diet massively and see if you have a reaction. If you do, stuffy, maybe you're tired, maybe you're fatigued, maybe you're seeing some skin stuff, maybe you're getting some itching, maybe you're getting a little bit of diarrhea, loose stools, maybe you don't feel so good, maybe you're not sleeping well, all that would be suspicious of an allergy. And I would test it a couple of times. When you pull that food out of your diet and you feel pretty good, wow, my energy's good, I'm sleeping good. And you pull it back in, wow, I don't feel good. Okay, let me stop it again. Let me pull it back in. You'll see very quickly what foods you react to and what don't. Now, just like we talked about the gentleman in the beginning that wanted to do Splenda without issue, I do recommend to most people clean up your diet more and more. Those things that you absolutely love to do that you don't care if you have an allergy to, you may find your allergies less and less as you're more careful about the other foods that you do. Knock out the things that are not 10s on your list. Get lots of fresh vegetables, good proteins, good fats, grass-fed stuff. Feed your body well.